I'm James Brierton in Charlotte with an update on Hurricane Ian. Let's look at the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center, still keeping Ian as a major storm as it approaches a landfall on the Gulf Coast side of Florida as early as Thursday afternoon. Again, we still have everybody in range from the Panhandle all along the west coast of Florida, and we'll explain what those differences mean in just a moment. Overall, we can anticipate seeing tropical storm or tropical depression Ian here in the Carolinas as early as Friday through Saturday. I'll show you some of that in just a moment, but anticipate that at a minimum, we could be looking at tropical storm force winds coming into the Hilton Head, South Carolina area by Thursday at 8 a.m. By Thursday at 8 p.m., we're approaching the Myrtle Beach area and the Columbia area. This is the arrival times of tropical storm conditions, then arriving in North Carolina overnight through Friday morning. Forecasters at the National Hurricane Center drawing their forecast with a further inland track, with a track of Ian that takes it further to the west. Tropical Depression Ian by Saturday over portions of Georgia, coming through the upstate South Carolina area near Clemson and Anderson by Sunday. That would bring us again further inland, which would actually increase the chances of seeing heavy rain, flash flooding, and tornadoes across a larger area of the Carolinas. The storm would then be exiting the low pressure system, exiting out of the Carolinas, out of Virginia by Monday. The impacts of the storm would be then decreasing, with most of the activity from the storm out ahead in that northeast quadrant, that top right quadrant, as you so often hear us say. Total rainfall amounts, we could be seeing 5 to 7 inches of rain along the coast and across the upper elevations of western North Carolina, places like Asheville. Think back to Ida. This is going to be a heavy rain and flash flooding scenario, especially if Ian takes that further westward, further inland track. Even the lowest rainfall totals across the Piedmont area of North Carolina could still see 2 to 3 inches of rain, which could still mean a flash flooding potential in places like Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, Greensboro, and Charlotte. Looking at some of the computer models, it's the NAM that really wants to keep this storm at the Tampa Bay area landfall, crossing over Orlando, coming back out on the Space Coast. The NAM bringing the area of circulation for Ian back over the waters of the Atlantic, which would give it the opportunity to maintain some strength as it skirted the coast and really combine those onshore wind flows to really make this quite a soaker along the Carolina coast. One of the European models, the ECMWF, doing the same thing with a very strong hurricane making landfall near the Tampa area, crossing over Orlando, and then bringing that center of circulation back out into the waters of the Atlantic. It's that GFS model, however, that the forecasters at the National Weather Service are looking at that keep Ian in the Gulf waters longer, delaying the landfall until later on Friday, somewhere along that panhandle, bringing that area of circulation across Georgia, then across upstate South Carolina and western North Carolina. That would give an opportunity for that top right quadrant, that northeast quadrant of the storm, to impact more of the Carolinas, again bringing more heavy rain, more flash flooding, and scattered tornadoes across the Carolinas as we look from later Friday through Saturday, with storm conditions recovering by the time we get to Sunday. I know it's still too early to tell. We need to get more data in on the track of Ian in the Gulf Coast and then look ahead to where this landfall could be to then determine what will happen downstream. The best thing you can do right now is prepare. What would you need if you were to travel and if you were to evacuate? What things would you need for that trip? What things would you need if you were to stay home, potentially without running water, potentially without power for several days? Start gathering those items now. Maybe you won't need them for this storm. No harm, no foul. And maybe you will need them, and you'll be happy that you spent the time earlier in the week preparing. We will have more updates on Ian coming your way. For now, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte. This has been an update from the Carolina Weather Group.